the Banished Heir. In the mighty kingdom of Arcanus, there existed a legendary family known as the House of Valen. For centuries, they had produced the greatest swordsmen in the world. Their name alone was enough to make kings bow their heads and enemies tremble in fear. At the head of this powerful family stood Cael Valen, the Sword Saint. He was undefeated in battle and respected across the continent. Many believed he was the strongest man alive. But among his many children, there was one son who brought nothing but disappointment to the family. His name was Rylan Valen. Unlike his talented brothers and sisters, Rylan possessed no visible talent for swordsmanship. While the other children mastered advanced techniques at a young age, Rylan struggled with even the most basic forms. Every day, he became the target of ridicule. Look at him! The useless son is training again. Why does father even allow him to stay here? The insults followed him everywhere. Yet Rylan never gave up. Every morning before sunrise, he would sneak into the training grounds and practice until his hands bled. Every night, after everyone else had gone to sleep, he continued swinging his wooden sword beneath the moonlight. No matter how hard he trained, however, the results never came. Years passed. The gap between Rylan and his siblings only grew larger. Eventually, even the elders of the family lost patience. One day, a meeting was called inside the grand hall of House Valen. The clan leaders sat in silence as Cael Valen stood before them. The eldest elder spoke. Rylan Valen has brought shame to our family long enough. He lacks talent, strength, and potential. We request his removal from the main household. The room erupted with agreement. Many believed that Rylan's existence stained the reputation of the clan. When the decision was finally announced, Rylan felt his heart shatter. He was banished, forced to leave the place he had called home, forced to abandon the dream he had chased his entire life. But even then, he did not curse his family. He only blamed himself. If I were stronger, if only I had talent, everything would have been different. With nowhere else to go, Rylan wandered across the kingdom. Years passed. He became a mercenary, accepting dangerous missions simply to survive. Again and again, he faced death. Again and again, he barely escaped. But something unexpected happened. Through endless battles and hardships, Rylan slowly improved. Without realizing it, he developed instincts that no academy could teach. He learned how to survive, how to endure pain, how to keep moving forward when all hope was lost. Eventually, his name began to spread. People called him the Iron Swordsman, not because he was the strongest, but because he refused to break. For 10 long years, Rylan fought across battlefields, monster-infested forests, and ancient ruins. Then one day, everything changed. A terrifying threat emerged from the northern lands, the Shadow King, an ancient ruler who commanded an army of darkness. Cities fell one after another. Entire kingdoms collapsed. Even the strongest warriors were powerless before him. When news reached Rylan, he made a decision. He would fight, not for glory, not made a decision. He would fight, not for glory, not for... Here's a people suffering under the Shadow King's invasion. The final battle took place at the Valley of Ashes. Warriors from every corner of the continent gathered together. Among them stood Rylan, older, scarred, exhausted, but determined. The battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Countless heroes fell. The ground became soaked with blood. Yet somehow, the Allied forces managed to reach the Shadow King. One by one, the strongest warriors sacrificed themselves. Finally, only Rylan remained standing. The Shadow King laughed. You are the final challenger? Rylan tightened his grip on his sword. His body was broken. His armor was shattered. He had no strength left. But he stepped forward anyway. The two clashed. Again, and again, and again. Each strike pushed Rylan closer to death. Yet he refused to fall. In that desperate moment, something inside him awakened. For a brief second, he saw the flow of the battlefield. He saw every weakness, every movement, every possibility. His sword moved faster than ever before. With one final strike, the Shadow King fell. The greatest enemy in history had been defeated. Victory belonged to humanity, but the price was too high. Rylan collapsed to the ground. His body could no longer move. As darkness consumed his vision, countless memories flashed before his eyes. His childhood, his family, his dreams, his failures. Tears rolled down his face, not because he was afraid to die, but because of regret. If only I had been given another chance. If only I could start over. I would become stronger. I would protect everyone. I would prove that I wasn't worthless. The world faded away. Silence surrounded him. Then suddenly, a mysterious voice echoed through the darkness. Do you truly wish for another chance? Rylan opened his eyes. Before him stood a glowing figure made of silver light. The being smiled. Very well. Let us see what fate becomes when a broken sword is reforged. The world exploded into brilliant light, and when Rylan opened his eyes again, he was no longer lying in the Valley of Ashes. He was back in his childhood bedroom, the same room he had left years ago, the same room inside House Valen. His hands were small once more. His body was young, his heart raced. This can't be real. Then realization struck him. He had returned to the past, a second chance, a chance to rewrite everything, a chance to surpass his destiny. And this time, the world would witness the rise of the greatest swordsman in history. To be continued. YouTube title, The Banished Heir Regresses and Becomes the Strongest Swordsman, Chapter 1. Violently as he stared at his small hands. The rough scars earned through years of battle were gone. The muscles he had built through endless training had disappeared. He was a child again. For several minutes, he simply sat on the edge of his bed in silence. It felt like a dream, a cruel illusion. But deep inside, he already knew the truth. This was real. He had truly returned to the past, to the moment before everything went wrong. A slow smile appeared on his face, not because life would suddenly become easy, but because he now possessed something he never had before. Knowledge. Knowledge of future events. Knowledge of future enemies. Knowledge of hidden opportunities. And most importantly, knowledge of his own mistakes. This time will be different. Rylan clenched his fists. He remembered every insult, every failure, every moment he had wasted trying to imitate others. In his previous life, he had believed talent was everything. Now he understood the truth. Hard work mattered. Experience mattered. Knowledge mattered. And unlike everyone else his age, he possessed the experience of a warrior who had survived countless battlefields. The next morning, Rylan walked toward the family training grounds. As expected, the other children were already gathered there. His older brothers displayed incredible sword techniques. The instructors praised them. The servants admired them. And just like before, nobody paid attention to Rylan. Normally this would have hurt him. But not today. Today he welcomed it. The less attention he received, the easier it would be to grow stronger in secret. The instructor tossed a wooden sword toward him. Try not to embarrass yourself. Several children laughed. Rylan ignored them. Instead, he slowly raised the wooden sword. The weapon felt lighter than he remembered. His younger body lacked strength, but his mind remained the same. He remembered every battle, every technique, every lesson learned through blood and pain. Taking a deep breath, he began moving. One strike, then another, then another. His movements appeared simple, yet they were unbelievably precise. The instructor's eyes widened slightly. Something felt different. The sword's swings were basic, but they contained almost no wasted movement. For a moment, the instructor wondered if he was imagining things. Then the feeling disappeared. No. The instructor shook his head. He's still the same useless child. Training continued, but Rylan smiled inwardly. His plan was working. Nobody suspected anything. That night, while the rest of the family slept, Rylan quietly left his room. The moon illuminated the grounds outside. He headed toward a forgotten hill behind the estate. Very few people visited this place, but Rylan knew a secret hidden there, a secret he had discovered much later in his previous life. Beneath an ancient tree rested a small stone shrine. Most people ignored it. Some believed it was simply decorative, but Rylan knew better. Approaching the shrine, he placed his hand upon the weathered stone. Nothing happened. For several seconds, silence filled the air. Then faint blue symbols appeared across the surface. The shrine began glowing. Rylan smiled. It really exists. Inside the hidden compartment was a small black book, the ancient breathing method, a cultivation technique lost for hundreds of years. In his previous life, he had discovered it by accident when he was already 30 years old. By then, it had been too late. Now everything was different. Carefully opening the book, he began reading. The technique focused on strengthening the body from within. Unlike normal training methods, it developed both physical strength and spiritual energy simultaneously. If mastered properly, it could transform an ordinary warrior into a monster. For the next several hours, Rylan followed the instructions, slowly inhaling, slowly exhaling, guiding energy throughout his body. At first, nothing happened. Then a faint warmth appeared in his chest. His eyes widened. Success! He had activated the technique on his very first night. Even in his previous life, it had taken him weeks. His experience was already changing the future. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Every morning, Rylan attended normal training sessions. Every night, he secretly practiced the ancient breathing method. His body gradually transformed. His strength increased. His reflexes improved. His senses sharpened. Yet he carefully concealed everything. There was no reason to reveal his abilities early. The stronger he became in secret, the greater his advantage would be later. Then one day, a familiar event occurred. An event he remembered clearly from his previous life. A family examination. Every child of House Valen would demonstrate their abilities before the elders. Talented children would receive rewards. Weak children would receive criticism. And in his previous life, this had been the day everyone laughed at him. The memory still burned. As the examination began, one child after another displayed impressive skills. The elders nodded with satisfaction. Then Rylan's name was called. Several people sighed. Others smirked. They already expected failure. Rylan slowly walked toward the center of the arena. His brothers watched with amusement. The instructors shook their heads. Even the servants looked away. Nobody expected anything. The elder overseeing the test spoke. "Begin." Rylan raised his wooden sword. Silence filled the arena. Then he moved. A single strike cut through the air. Fast, precise, perfect. The laughter disappeared instantly. Everyone stared. Rylan continued. Second strike, third strike, fourth strike. Each movement flowed smoothly into the next. His technique remained basic, yet it looked far more refined than before. Shock appeared on several faces. The elders exchanged confused glances. What happened to him? Even Rylan's father, Cale Valent, narrowed his eyes. For the first time in years, the Sword Saint was paying attention to his youngest son. Rylan noticed his father's gaze. A strange feeling filled his chest. In his previous life, he had spent years seeking recognition, years trying to earn a single glance. Now he finally had it. But surprisingly, it no longer mattered. He wasn't training for recognition anymore. He wasn't training for approval. He was training to survive, to protect those he had failed to save, to prepare for the darkness he knew would eventually come. As the demonstration ended, silence remained. Nobody knew what to say. The useless heir had suddenly improved. Not enough to be called a genius. Not yet, but enough to raise questions, enough to attract attention. And attention was dangerous. As the crowd dispersed, Rylan looked toward the distant mountains. His expression became serious, because he remembered something, a terrible event. Exactly 1 year from now, a monster outbreak would occur near the kingdom's northern border. Thousands would die, including someone very important, someone he had failed to save in his previous life. This time would be different. This time, he would be ready. And this time, he would change fate itself. To be continued. Next chapter. Chapter break and the first change in fate. 1 year passed in the blink of an eye. While everyone else believed Rylan was slowly improving through ordinary training, the truth was far different. Every night, he continued practicing the ancient breathing method. Every day, he refined the combat experience he had gained in his previous life. His body was still young, but his skills had already surpassed many warriors several years older than him. Most importantly, the day he had been waiting for was finally approaching. The monster outbreak. In his previous life, the disaster had begun near the northern border of the kingdom. At first, it seemed like a simple monster attack. Then the truth emerged. A hidden dungeon deep beneath the mountains had suddenly opened. Thousands of monsters poured into nearby villages. Entire towns were destroyed overnight, and among the victims was someone Rylan would never forget. A young girl named Alara. In his previous life, she had saved his life years later. But before he could repay her kindness, she had died during the outbreak. The memory still haunted him. This time, he refused to let history repeat itself. 3 days before the disaster, Rylan secretly left the Valen estate. The journey took several hours. By sunset, he arrived at a small village near the northern mountains. The same village destined to become the first target. People laughed and chatted peacefully. Children played in the streets. Merchants sold food in the marketplace. None of them knew death was approaching. Rylan clenched his fists. I won't let it happen. As darkness covered the village, he headed toward the mountains. The familiar path appeared exactly as he remembered. Broken rocks, ancient trees, steep cliffs. Eventually, he reached a narrow cave entrance hidden behind vines. The dungeon, the source of everything. In his previous life, nobody discovered it until it was too late, but Rylan already knew where it was. Stepping inside, he carefully advanced deeper underground. The air grew colder. A strange energy filled the tunnels. Then he saw it, a massive magical seal. Cracks covered its surface. Dark energy leaked from within. The seal was breaking, and behind it, thousands of monsters waited. Rylan's face became serious. Even though he knew about the dungeon, he wasn't strong enough to stop it alone. Not yet. He needed help. The problem was convincing anyone to believe him. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the cave. The seal trembled violently. More cracks spread across its surface. Rylan's eyes widened. No, it shouldn't be happening this early. Another explosion shook the cavern. The seal shattered. A terrifying roar erupted from the darkness. Then dozens of glowing red eyes appeared. The monsters had awakened. Without hesitation, Rylan turned and ran. The ground shook beneath his feet. Behind him, countless creatures charged through the tunnels. Their growls echoed like thunder. Rylan sprinted toward the exit with everything he had. The moment he emerged from the cave, he raced toward the village. The attack had begun, earlier than expected. Villagers screamed as monsters descended from the mountains. Buildings caught fire. Chaos spread everywhere. People ran in every direction. The peaceful village transformed into a battlefield. Rylan drew his sword. His heart pounded. Although he had fought countless monsters in his previous life, this was different. Now he possessed the body of a child. One mistake could mean death. A wolf-like monster lunged toward a nearby family. Without thinking, Rylan stepped forward. His sword flashed. The monster's head fell instantly. The family stared in shock. Rylan didn't stop. Another monster charged, then another. Then another. His blade moved continuously. Each strike was precise, efficient, deadly. Years of battlefield experience guided every movement. Soon, villagers began noticing him. A young boy, fighting monsters like a veteran warrior. It seemed impossible, yet they were witnessing it with their own eyes. Despite his efforts, however, the number of monsters kept increasing. Rylan realized the situation was growing worse. Then he heard a scream, a familiar scream. His eyes widened. He immediately recognized the voice. Alara. Turning around, he spotted a small girl trapped beneath fallen debris. 3 monsters were approaching her, exactly as he remembered. In his previous life, nobody had reached her in time, but not today. Rylan exploded forward. His body moved faster than ever before. The first monster died instantly. The second lost its head. The third attempted to attack. Rylan sidestepped and pierced its heart. Silence followed. The girl stared at him with trembling eyes. You saved me. Rylan smiled slightly. For the first time in both lives, Alara survived. The future had changed. A strange feeling filled his chest. Hope. Real hope. Perhaps destiny wasn't fixed after all. Perhaps everything could be changed. Suddenly, an enormous roar echoed across the battlefield. Every monster froze. Even Rylan's expression darkened. He knew that roar. A powerful monster was coming. Far stronger than anything else present. The ground trembled. Trees collapsed. Then a giant creature emerged from the forest. Standing nearly 4 meters tall, the beast possessed black scales and glowing crimson eyes. Its presence alone terrified everyone. Villagers fell silent. Warriors backed away. Even experienced hunters turned pale. The Black Fang beast. In his previous life, dozens of soldiers had died fighting it. Rylan's grip tightened. His current strength wasn't enough. Not yet. But there was no one else. If he retreated, everyone behind him would die. The beast charged. The ground exploded beneath its feet. Rylan dashed forward. The battle that would determine the fate of the village had begun. And for the first time since his return, Rylan faced an enemy capable of killing him. To be continued.